Hey, what's up with it, guys? Hey, welcome back to another video. Now this is going to be a little bit of a different video. Obviously this is not classic content. We are in retail playing on the Hunter. Now this is going to be an alternative to kind of the meta quote-unquote playstyle. I'd say survival is more meta than beast mastery right now, but it's so common to see spirit beast with beast mastery hunters in PvP, and I kind of came up with this ultra kiting high mobility build today. Actually did do some arenas with it, and it was actually pretty effective when I was able to have kind of one-on-one situations and really maximize my kiting, and it was actually a lot of fun. So I figured I would go ahead and share this with you guys and go through a build if you guys are coming back to the game, getting ready for Shadowlands. This might be a fun one to kind of try out and test. It's a little bit different than the norm. So first off, let's go through the talents. Now some of these are pretty cookie cutter, or could be switched around however you want. The top two rows are not relevant to the actual speed aspect of this build. Obviously here, this is a little bit of a weird choice. Trailblazer is not very common, is definitely the least used trait by a long shot in this row, but this is a really integral part of this actual build. On the 60 row, you can go whatever you want here. I've actually been really enjoying Murder of Crows for arenas though, just because Thrill of the Hunt can be hard to maintain multiple stacks, especially if you have the Feeding Frenzy Azurite trait that makes your barb shot actually longer than this, so you kind of have this awkward synergy between the two abilities, or passives I should say. So I've been playing with Murder of Crows and actually really dig this, so but this is kind of personal preference. Post haste here is absolutely a necessity with this build. Stampede is also very strong. While it's not relevant to the move speed, I'll go over why this is actually really strong here in just a second. Aspect of the beast is very important for this build. Now basically what we're doing is we're stacking the Cunning Pet passive, which scales with Aspect of the Beast, on top of Trailblazer to really utilize our movement speed in combat. Now this is probably dumb that I didn't understand this better earlier, because I've played Hunter for a long time, but Trailblazer's move speed is specifically tied to you auto attacking or casting an ability or trap on a target. Now, not every single ability actually procs this, Stampede being one of them. The other things that don't proc Trailblazer, when I say proc, I mean disable Trailblazer, that act like you're attacking. Bestial Wrath does not make you lose Trailblazer, and Aspect of the Wild does not make you lose Trailblazer on top of Stampede. So you have three of your major cooldowns that can be utilized while having this buff up, and it actually doesn't fall off and doesn't consider that as you attacking. Now obviously your traps will actually trigger it. Auto shots, if you try and concussive shot, silencing shot, those kinds of things will actually disable Trailblazer. So be aware of that and kind of play with it if you're trying to do certain combinations. But like I said, those major cooldowns that we use are not affected by, or do not affect Trailblazer and the buff that we gain from that. Now post haste stacks on top of these buffs. So we have the 30% from Trailblazer, which with the Aspect of the Beast and a Cunning Pet, you gain an additional 12% via pathfinding, which you can see here. It's slightly off the screen for you guys, but it's 12% movement speed, and that stacks with Trailblazer, so that's 42% movement speed we have off the bat. Now when you pop post haste, that's another 50%, so you get up to basically 195 to just under 200% movement speed in combat in PvP. Now one other thing that does actually add on to that is the Long Strider, I think is what it's called, Azurite trait. We're going to lag, of course, obviously, while we do this, but this Long Strider, this does scale. However, in PvP, this is significantly reduced. It's 5% of your secondary stat up to 1% move speed. So I tested this for this video specifically. This will actually add to the move speed, but it's not amazing, so I don't suggest going it. But if you are trying to eke out a couple more percent, you can do it via this Azurite trait. So for all intents and purposes, you're going to see the numbers are going to be affected by a 7, it's like 6.5–7% move speed from the Long Strider passive. So just understand that that would, in PvP situation, reduce down to about 1 additional percent instead of the 7. So all these numbers are basically reduced by 6% move speed in PvP. We also do have a script that I run that I can show you guys at different points what my move speed is, to show you how all of this stacks together. On to the PvP talents. Nothing really exciting here. You can run Hunting Pack if you really want to. I don't really like this honor talent, but it is an option. Maybe if you're doing BGs or group content, this might be more effective, as it does really work well with the build. I just like a lot of the other PvP talents a lot more than this. So, and we have the fact that we have disengage up so often, and you have just constant move speed. Aspect of the cheetah is very strong. It's not something I feel like I need up more often though, if that makes sense. Oh, and then onto the pet, onto the pet aspects here. You gain, if you have a cunning pet up, you have pathfinding, which we talked about, is 12%. It's 8% if you're not running the aspect of the beast talent, so that's why another 4% movement speed all the time, very significant. Master's Call is actually huge with this build. It's only a 45-second cooldown, which is actually really, really short. You can also use this on other people, and it affects your pet. So if I am playing with a Ret Pally and I Master's Call the Ret Pally, my pet will also be removed of snares. So this is great if your pet and your melee partner are, you know, going ham on a Frost Mage or things like that. If you get good at using this and, you know, create like a mouse over macro for it, it is really, really good. Now, let's go over the actual percentage of movement speed increases. So I'll pull up my chat here. So you can see I have a script that I can just click over here on the right. Now you're going to see my current speed is obviously at 0% as we're not moving. Now if I have to show you that this does work, mounted run speed 220%, which makes sense, right? We have the additional 100% from the mount, 20% from pathfinding in BFA. So that's how we're getting the 220. Now if I dismount, let's go ahead and we're going to take our pets out, or dismiss our pets. So all we have right now is Trailblazer. So you can see we're at 137, right? We're gaining 30% from Trailblazer, 7% from the Long Strider Azurite trait. Now then when I bring the pets out, Silithids, we're at another 12%. So 100, almost 150% movement speed. Now this doesn't change when we're in combat if it's just our pets on the target. You'll see here, this is actually a stop attack macro, so I don't shoot. But you see we keep Trailblazer up. I'm still at 149% move speed. Now this is where this gets kind of juicy, because this actually, the fact that your pets, your BM, so your pets do a really significant amount of damage. I created a macro that casts the Tendon Rip, which is the slow. We should actually probably talk about the pets a little bit more first. I'm using Silithids. Silithids are actually a very strong, very underrated pet for BM when it comes to PvP. They have Dune Strider, which helps them stick to the target, 30% bonus movement speed. You also have Tendon Rip, which is basically a hamstring, okay? It's a 6-second duration, 50% snare with a 10-second cooldown. This means this has a 60% uptime by itself, assuming that your pet is on the target, and you have this somewhat macroed into some abilities, or you're using this relatively often. It will auto cast sometimes, but generally that's tied to things like kill command, things like that. So I created a macro that uses Tendon Rip. It also uses Claw. Also, it does a /petattack to make sure my pet is on the target, and then it is a /stopattack macro. This is a macro I use, so if I'm going ham on the target, I'm DPSing. I have lost my shoot, I just forgot the word, Trailblazing buff, and you can see here we're at 100 excuse me, we're at 119%, 144% because we got a proc there of our helm, but you can see it's going to go back to 119. Now if I hit that macro, the pet's going to go ahead and cast Tendon Rip. I'm stopped attacking and we're fast again. We're back up to 149% movement speed. Now this is actually amazing because you can basically do this, keep spamming that button. Your pet is going to be casting Tendon Rip on cooldown. You can line sight around the pull here, and then you can go back and do this, whatever you want. If you need to hop out and mend pet, whatever you need to do, right? And you can do this and then let the buff come back up. And then by the time a lot of classes are able to gap close onto you, you have the 30% move speed up on top of the pathfinding, and it is super difficult for people to catch you. Now on top of that, if you do get snared, this doesn't necessarily take away any of your buffs, right? It will slow you down because the snare is going to affect you either way. However, then you can use things like Master's Call, which all of a sudden you're removed from the snare and moving very, very quickly. You can also, obviously at this point, we're still at the same speed, right? We're at that 149. But if I disengage, and then I have the disengage buff, you can see we're at 199% movement speed in combat. While this is also going to remove all of our snares because of post haste. So not only do we gain basically another blessing of freedom that's on like a 15-second cooldown or whatever disengage is, it's also stacking on top of all these other move speed buffs. So we're incredibly fast out of our disengage, and we can use that as another get out of jail free card regarding any kind of snares or roots or slows. Now, another thing that's actually really awesome with this is the aspect of the cheetah scales as well. It's important to understand post haste and aspect of the cheetah will overlap each other, so you don't want to use those at the same time. What I mean by that is aspect of the cheetah is going to give you a 90% movement speed, and post haste is going to give you a 50% movement speed. If you cast them both at the same time, you're only going to get the 90%. They don't stack on top of each other. However, both of those do stack on top of these two buffs. So if we use aspect of the cheetah right here, you'll see we're at 239% move speed. Then when it drops down to the weaker portion, we're at 179% move speed. So you can see how strong aspect of the cheetah is, especially if you pair it with something like Master's Call. You can basically Master's Call aspect of the cheetah and zoom around the map super fast, you know, for that 4 or 5 seconds and get yourself out of a situation. Then use things like post haste. Not to mention, you also, if you are high mountain, you can high mountain charge, turn around, disengage the other way, and you are incredibly hard to get. All the while, if you're spamming the new macro, you will be tendon ripping on cooldown, constantly keeping that snare up with a 60% uptime on any target that's chasing you. This allows you all kinds of opportunities to get around pillars and just basically indefinitely be able to kite people, assuming they don't kill your pet, in which case you can generally even still get around the corner and res your pet because you have so much mobility with this. So anyways, I don't want to make this video too long, but hopefully that kind of helps shed some light on this setup. I probably am going to post some gameplay of some kind of like low CR arenas, just messing around, if you guys are interested in that. But you know, let me know down below if you guys have tried this build out or something similar, something a little more unorthodox. But this is a really cool build. I really love using the silithids in PvP, and I feel like a lot of people are really caught off guard by this setup because they're so used to playing against spirit beasts, and this is like a totally different spin on BM Hunter from what I see right now currently being played in the meta. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. With that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.